what do you mean by grammar and how do you teach it? And how are your students and using grammar in just speaking and writing? Often we teachers use grammar in isolation. Teaching grammar in isolation is not only ineffective, but it can actually make students' writing worse. It happens at the start of every year. Students are going back to basics. If it doesn't happen to somewhere, despite all the drills of last year, the students continue to make the same mistakes, and teachers' voice raise. We went over this. Don't you remember? In fact, the National Council of Teachers of English put forth a resolution affirming that the use of isolated grammar and usage exercises is a deterrent to the improvements of students' speaking and writing. Now come to our today's presentation. Now come to the task. As you know that our today's presentation is about what do you mean by grammar. I want to first ask your thoughts. There are several perceptions about a grammar. Number one is that my student know the grammar but they can't use it. Number two, by the age of 5, children know most of the grammar of their mother tongue. And number three, you can't speak a language unless you know the grammar. So, what are your perceptions about that? That you fall in the category one, in the number one, that your student know the grammar but they can't use it, or do you think by the age of the 5, the native children, the native speaker of any language, know most of the grammar of the mother tongue? Like you can say that we speak Urdu in Pakistan, so the children don't make mistake while making uh, an utterance of Urdu. Like if you say Abu ko pani do, then he will say Abu ko pani do. He will not say that Abu ka pani do. So he will put a correct preposition according to the grammar of Urdu. So like in the other languages, by the age of 5, children know most of the grammar of their mother tongue. And what's the perception about you can't speak a language unless you know the grammar? First of all, you can use your chat box to type your answer or connect with us. My students know the grammar, but they can't use it. When teachers, yes, yes, it is in this perception that her students know the grammar, but they can't use it. So what does you mean? What do you mean by this? Your students know the grammar, but they can't use it. Yes. When teachers say this, that they often mean is my student know the rules of the grammar, that they know how to make a present simple tense, how to make a past simple tense, and how to form a do questions, for example. But they do not actually produce do question when it comes to the matter of communication. When it comes to speaking, they can't use grammar. They only learn grammar rules and they forget when it comes to the communication, when it comes to in writing style. They can say then like what's your name, like skipping the uh, is mr helping groups, or where you live, escaping do, where do you live instead of where do you live, or what mean rules, what do you mean by rules? If there is anyone who say that by the age of 5 children know most of the grammar of their mother tongue, who of you think that by the age of 5 children know most of the grammar of their mother tongue? Yes. I will give you an example. Uh, like my nephew is of 5 years old. Not surprisingly, he speaks English without any difficulty. He lives in Canada. So he can use all the tenses and is constantly asking questions and so on. And he even use models with have. Uh, so clearly he can use the grammar of English because he's able to operate it. He can communicate it without any trouble. But of course, when we ask him in a sense that he doesn't know the grammar at all, means he doesn't know the rules. So how can we make a present simple tense? How can we make a past simple tense? How can we use the when and where we use the models? Don't know how and where we can use these rules. If we ask him what are the rules for forming do question, he would probably say, "What is the do question?" He doesn't know what is a do question. The phrase knowing grammar, I think, is being used in two quite different ways here. In number one, as I read it earlier, the my students know the grammar, but they can't use it. It means that being able to cite the rules for forming acceptable sentences. That means they can cite the rules, they can tell you the rules that how and how we can make a simple tense or past tense, but they are unable to produce it. And in number two, it means knowing the system in a way that enables you to produce acceptable form of the language. Number third perception is you can't speak a language unless you know the grammar. It means if you don't know the grammar, you can't speak any language. If they mean this in sense to, then they are saying you can't speak a language unless you can produce acceptable sentences. Or you can't speak a language unless you can use the language. And these are not very useful things to say. All they mean is you can't speak a language unless you can speak the language. But if they mean this is in sense one, then they are clearly talking nonsense. You can say that as I give you an example of my nephew, that he certainly speaks the language, but he doesn't know the grammar in sense one at all. That he doesn't know the rules. He can't explain the rule that how can where and how can we use the preposition. He cannot tell you the difference between the do questions and the WH questions. And although he is a very bright student, but certainly he couldn't, he is not able to tell you what a modal verb is, what a modal auxiliary is. Uh, you may think that at this stage that this is because he is a native speaker, because he has acquired the language naturally. But I don't think this is the case. Let us look more closely at the relationship between the grammar in sense one and grammar in sense two. There are the basic rules of explaining grammar. Uh, we teachers often tell our students that we use the present simple tense for things that are always true, like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, things that happen all the time, like I go to the university at 8 o'clock, things that happen repeatedly, like I take coffee in the morning. And we tell our students that we use the present continuous for the things that are happening now. If we think that the previous all sentences are true, then what do you think about these sentences? Are these all sentences are ungrammatical? Like Jack is at university, he's studying economics. I am playing a lot of tennis these days. At 8 o'clock, I am usually having my breakfast. So, what do you think about these sentences? Do you think that these sentences are ungrammatical? What do you think that why am I am telling you that these sentences are ungrammatical? In the previous slide, we learned that we use the present simple tense for things that are always true. We often tell our students these rules, and we use the present continuous for things that are happening now. But these sentences are what are they saying? I am playing a lot of tennis these days. It's the present continuous tense. At 8 o'clock, I am having my breakfast. Take that university. Please mute yourself. If you want to ask something, you can use your mic and your chat box. Please. Javed Khan, please mute yourself. Okay, now what we were telling about, what we were discussing that are these all sentences are ungrammatical because it is these sentences are against our rule that it doesn't follow the present simple tense, it doesn't follow the present continuous tense. Look at the sentence number one. That Jack is at university, he is studying economics. It is a present continuous tense. And we tell our student that we use the present continuous tense that when something is happening now, it is in continuation. If we were to say that at this time, at this 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. At night, you wouldn't expect someone to look at their watch and say, um, Jack must be a very conscious student if he is studying now. It is 8 o'clock right now. Perhaps we can amend the rule and say we use the present continuous tense for the things that are happening now or around now. So Jack is not actually studying at this moment, but that's what Jack is normally doing. But then, what about this? Jack is with Unilever. He works in their accounts department. Voice and works in the present continuous tense since it tells what Jack is normally doing. So we can use the present continuous tense for explaining the things that something is happening repeatedly. That Jack is at university and he is studying economics. It is not a present simple tense. We are using present continuous tense um, to tell others that what we are doing, that what we do in these days. We have a now with the present simple tense. As we say that when we have now, the word now, it is a present continuous tense. But when we are using a present simple tense, we are using also a noun. And the present continuous is living. But our son is living in London. For something that happens all the time. How can we account for this? Perhaps it is to do with the nature of the verb live. It represents a state rather than an action. That's why it is present simple. And we live in Birmingham now. But if that in this case, was it continuous in our son is living in London? Like the same thing, I am playing a lot of tennis these days. I am not currently playing tennis. I am telling you that I am playing a lot of tennis these days. I am telling you the things that are that is repeatedly happen these days. And at 8 o'clock, I am usually having my breakfast or according to the rule, it should be a present simple tense because it is something that happens repeatedly. Indeed, it is quite explicitly something that happens repeatedly. So why is it present continuous. Perhaps it's a very unusual use, the kind of thing we don't hear very often. But I don't think it's unusual at all. And it's certainly grammatical. Unless I was ungrammatical a few minutes ago when I said, so Jack isn't actually studying at this moment. But that is what Jack is normally doing using the present continuous tense with an adverb of frequency. So it's a very confusing thing that we tell our students a rule and leave the rest to the students or to the students to learn from here and there. Look at these sentences. How many of these sentences are ungrammatical? What do you think that I look at the picture or I look the picture at?
I look at the picture.
Do you think that I looked at the picture is ungrammatical? Look uh, all the sentences carefully. Number 2, 4, and 8 are sentence number 2, sentence number 4, and sentence number 8 are ungrammatical. Though you can see that I look the picture at is the same as number 7, I took it out. The preposition is at the end of the sentence, as in the number 2. I look the picture at. But number
I look the picture at.
it is ungrammatical. I look the picture at is ungrammatical. You are saying that I look the picture at is ungrammatical. Yes, you are right. I look the picture at is ungrammatical. Sentence number 2, sentence number 4, and sentence number 8 are ungrammatical. Though if you see the pattern of these sentences, they are somehow the same, but the one is grammatical and the other sentence is ungrammatical. Like, I look the picture at, the preposition is at the end of the sentence, at, and in number 7, I took it out, preposition is at the in the end of the sentence, but number 7 is right and the number 2 sentence is wrong. And see number 5 differences between the number 5 and 6. Number 7, sentence number 5, I took out my wallet. Number 6, I took my wallet out. Both are correct. But number 7, I took it out. And number 8, the I took it out is correct. What do you think that this raises a number of problems to the side of the student? Or you can say that it is normal and the student should learn it out. And there is some rule to learn and apply in the language. What's your thinking about this? That as you see that when we explain any tense, we explain its rules. We don't tell our student the usage of the tenses. You can use your chat box too. This raises a number of interesting questions for language teachers. Number one, how can we justify telling learners things that are simply wrong? How can we say that this is wrong? I give you an example of two sentences that one is right and other is wrong. Though the preposition in the other sentence, the preposition is in the end, and in the previous sentence, both the sentences are in the same pattern, but one sentence is right and another sentence is wrong. What is the role of the formal instruction in grammar? What should we do? How can we justify our instruction regarding grammar? How can we maintain that we are teaching grammar if we teach only the simple things and leave learners to work out the difficult things for themselves? How can they learn themselves? How do learners manage to develop a more complete and sensitive grammar than their teachers are able to explain or demonstrate? How can we best help our learners? What do you think? What are your opinions that how can we best help our learners? If we just tell our students the rules of grammar, do you think that they are able to learn a language? They can use the language in a proper way. They can use the language for the communication, for the writing purpose. If we just explain them the rule and leave the rest of them for themselves to learn or use the language.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I don't think so. If you only tell them that this is it, and just leave it on them, I don't think this will increase their grammatical skills, because we have to make them understand how to use grammars. Because since they already don't have any exact idea, so with just letting them know about the grammars, we cannot help them to succeed. This is my opinion.
Yes, you are right. As you join right now, I want to tell you that
Yes.
uh, see that a same tense is used for different purpose, like a present
Mm-hmm.
simple tense and the present continuous tense have different usage. The side of a set rule
Yes.
that the present simple
Mm-hmm.
tense is used for the repeated action and the present continuous tense is used for the something happening now. So we can use it vice versa. That present continuous tense is also used for telling them something happening repeatedly. That he is in the university or he is studying economics. So we are using the simple present continuous tense instead of the present simple. When the language is used, the use of language is something different. Something different from the set rules. Like the rules, we say, we teachers tell our students this is a set rule for the present simple, this is a set rule for the past continuous tense. So these are something different. The use and meaning of the tenses are different. So what should we do? What should we do? We need to recognize the limitations of what can be achieved by formal instructions. We should recognize that everything is can't achieve just by giving the students instructions, that we just give them the instructions and they will learn and they will understand. So there is no way we can teach a language in its entirely. We will always depend on learners applying their own creativity and initiatives. Teachers can blunt this creativity by giving rules which do not work. This is likely to inhibit learners from developing a system that does work. And more important, it is likely to encourage uh, dependency on the teachers, that the student depend on the teachers, that teacher will tell them the rule, that teacher will tell him what they should do, then they will do. Instead of working on language for themselves, learners wait to be told how the language works and what they can and cannot do. We should recognize that language is a meaning system. It is not a set rules of do's and don'ts. A form of polite etiquette. It's a not of set rules uh, for set rules for the children that you should wake up early, that you should go to the sleep at 8 p.m. It is not a set of rules. We should offer learners plenty of opportunities to use language both receptively and productively. Learners need exposure to spoken and written language to afford them the data they need to work on in order to build their grammar. They need to produce language in meaningful context to enable them to establish and extend their repertoire. We should encourage the kind of activity that stimulate learners to think about language. What do you think about this? How can we encourage the students? What should we do? What activity we should do in our classroom that stimulate the learners to think about the language? Do you have any suggestions? Any of you?
Well, I would say if we create some interactive sessions in the class, we can have this play card rule where we can ask students regarding specific grammar tense, or we can play games. Like for an example, if we have anything in our desktop or in the screen where we ask them a question and give them like multiple choice answers and ask them to select one particular answer and like in a group. So, and then I mean, like this will help them even if they're wrong. The teacher will then tell them, okay, you are wrong, but this is the actual answer and this is the reason behind it. What I'm trying to explain is we can do it by creating interacting sessions which can involve all the students in the class. And by this and with the discussion, and we can also take opinions of every single students in the class. And if we can somehow convert our answers in visualized form, I mean, if we can have them on the screen, then they will be able to learn it with their eyes because they will be able to see it. And if we discuss it among each other in the class, then it will help them to remember it. So I think an interactive sessions, if we can involve all the students in the class, even with the teachers, we really help them to understand. And we can also have different ways, like as I said, like play cards, or we can have play different games which will help us, because like we cannot just have one single thing on a daily basis. It will bore them. So we have to find different ways to make it interesting for them so that they focus in the class in the during the interaction. So this is basically what I think. Thank
Yes,
you.
that's nice. You are right. We can use also role play.
Yes.
That we simulate the role of the manager and a customer. That and we should. I think that we should focus on the fluency of the language. That they can communicate easily and freely with each other, and they develop a habit of communication of speaking. They can speak well rather than we focus on the accuracy. First, we have to come on the fluency. After that, we should focus on accuracy. But if there is something that is that change the meaning of the sentences, uh, that it should be told to the students rather than we should avoid the error so that the student don't hesitate in the class and they are more confident. And when we simulate the role play, and we assign roles, and when we make our class engaging and there is fun activities, those students are happy. And all we all know very well that when the students are happy, they learn easily and they remember more. When you watch a funny video or funny movie, you enjoy it and you learn what happened in the movie. Beside Rather than if you watch a boring movie, what will you do? You will just switch off the TV. So that's a very good answer. And what's the same thing I have already told it? Celebrate achievement rather than penalize error. Encourage the students that yes, you are right, you have done well, rather than pointing out the errors that you did this wrong, you did this wrong. So it will help learners not only to learn grammatical rules, not by explicitly that is explicitly defined, but they will learn it implicitly, because a native speaker of any language learn grammar, know grammar, sorry, native speaker of any language know grammar very well. How? How they know the grammar? How they know grammar very well? A native speaker of any language know grammar very well. He doesn't need to learn grammar, but he cannot describe that what is this and that. Like if we take the example of English, as we have discussed it earlier, that a native speaker cannot explain a child of a native speaker, native speaker of England cannot explain what is active voice and passive voice, what is modal verb. They can't explain it all, but they are, but he can use very well. He know the usage of the language, but he cannot explain grammar. So what should we focus on? We should focus on to use the language. We should tell rules, but we should tell them also the usage and meaning of our tenses. If any of you want to tell something, can share with us, because we have only 1 minute and 43 seconds.
Yeah, I wanted to add something. It's something that, remember, you discussed that the part of the education system you described, that the teacher should always celebrate achievement rather than penalizing error. So this is something which should be done in every field, I guess. Like, that's how teachers should teach students from playgroup to even A levels. Because when I'm in Sweden right now, and here I have seen the teachers that they only celebrate the achievements instead of penalizing the errors. So they never demotivate any student here. They always give you constructive feedbacks instead of giving destructive feedbacks. So even if a student present a very bad presentation, they will never point the errors. They will only focus on the good parts he has done, and they will give opinions like, maybe you should have included this, maybe you should have included that. So by doing this, they are not discouraging the students, rather they are giving them constructive and positive feedbacks. And this actually helps the students to work, or to do better next time. So if this fact can be applicable throughout the learning system, we know that in our Asian countries, there are very less number of teachers who teach students like this. But I should say that us, or teachers, should implement this usage, or this idea which you have mentioned, that celebrating achievement instead of penalizing error in every subjects. This will really help student to build up and